All right, guys, let's get into it. Little recap. Copart bought 11997.2. I added the carbon seats because I didn't want to fix the whatever 14-way adjustables, 12, whatever they were, the one with all the switches on it. We had to pull the carpet out because I needed to get to all the grounds and everything that are underneath, things like that, hidden, like right there. And there's some up in here in the, where the that module's the ABS module, or I'm sorry, not the ABS, the crash module for the airbags. Anyways, you notice the door panel's off over there from the last video where I'm putting a new door motor in because that is all corroded. Because what happens, if you can imagine, the car comes in to Copart, it's water damage. This car, I talked to the previous owner, was the flood line was here. So that's why everyone was so excited when this car came up for auction, right? But then Copart goes in and they take a wand, high pressure wand, and they basically they spray it. And all these switches get filled with an anti-mold disinfectant all throughout here, all the way down here, all inside here, all here. So if you buy a flood, gets in the ignition switch, can get into the dash. It didn't in this one. Steering wheel's good in this car, but all the stuff in the center console, all the small modules, like these ones, you're gonna end up replacing them all. They're all damaged. Same thing in the back. All the relays were hammered. Replaced all the relays. Yeah, the ECU was bad. The all-wheel drive was bad. The PDK is right there. The module for that was bad. It was just everything was hosed down. So when you opened them up, they were full of a white chalky paste. Nothing like when you see a regular flood. So all right, I got all that fixed now. It was running fine. I had a little weird problem that developed. I had it from the very beginning. If you looked at the oil pressure was kind of low. I mean, it started, it was fine. It ran fine. You brought the engine RPM up to say 12 or 1500 and the motor was completely quiet. So I get everything mostly working in the car outside of the right driver door, which was in the last video. And all of a sudden it's just got a little tick in the motor. So back when I first got the car, there was no real, they had the tick, but there was no real, there was nothing, nobody was writing stuff like that up, right? Now, a few months later, they're talking about the 2011 3.8s and maybe some of the other direct inject motors having oil pump issues. So I believe this is the first year of this pump with this electronic controlled pressure sender. So it's basically, they call it a dry sump. It's really not a dry sump because this is all the connection hoses and pipes and pickups and windage tray, and this actually is the same as one of those. So a lot of the bolts in here are one-time use torque to yield. This is a manifold for their version of a dry sump. They basically lower the oil even lower in the motor, and they call that a dry sump. It's technically, dry sump it wouldn't be in the motor at all. There'd be a tank somewhere. But this is the new oil pump. They were having fits with this solenoid. It's went through massive, like 3-4 different revisions to get that thing dialed in. And I'm not sure if it's still dialed in yet. This is the latest version, right? 2, 3, 4 stages. Looks like a giant a valve body with a pump built into it and stuff. Anyways, it's expensive. I've heard of guys not changing it, trusting their oil pressure light, thinking that the oil pressure was low, or maybe it was a bad gauge or bad sender. And you I'm just here to say, if that's the case, then don't take a chance on that, because that's an awful expensive thing. Go ahead and read through some of the forums. Anyways, you're going to need an oil filter too. Both gaskets. There's the lower pan, the mid pan. I'm changing the chain and the sprocket with it, just because they're cheap. All the torque to yield bolts, all the extra O-rings, more torque to yield bolts. We'll reuse the manifolds. While I'm here, since this was a flood, we're going to do PDK. So I'll be servicing the PDK. And then new antifreeze, because I believe to get the second part of the oil pan off takes it takes a coolant drain. And I think I have that PDK pan in here if you guys haven't seen one before. Looks like that. Trans filter's built into the pan. So there's your drain. You can drain it, or you can change the filter too. So filter's part of the pan. That's the way you get it. All right, that's it. Best thing is go online, see what you guys can figure out. It's not cheap, and it's probably something you need to look at if you own this year car. So that's it. That's I think we're up to part 4 or 5 of this thing. So like, subscribe, give me your thoughts and ideas of whether you guys are ever going to buy a flood damaged. Oh, one other thing. Somebody was asking how you get a manual seat. I'm sorry, a power seat to move fore and aft if the battery's out, or if the motor's out, or if it's flood damaged. You'll have to go under the front of the seat. There's a motor under there with a gearbox and some cables that run out of it. You take the cable out of the left and the right side, and you have to turn, like, you'll get your hand under here, you'll turn the left side of the rack a little bit, and then you'll turn the right, and you're basically manually overriding the motor and just kind of walking the seat forward or back, whatever you need to get to, so that you can get to the body module. The rear body module's under this seat, and the amp is under the other seat. But you know, that one's always out. The amp is always out. It's always flooded, but you're not really gonna, that's not gonna help you get the car running. So you're gonna need to get to the body module. All right, that's it, guys. Stay tuned. We'll get onto this, get the oil pump in it. Maybe I'll do another one under the car.